Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you for coming to my channel. I thought I would do this video because I recently did a video on my choice of guitar picks and what I use, and I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about the strings that I use, because I do get from time to time questions, what kind of strings you use and what gauge, what brand, what guitar picks, in order for you to get the tone that you get on your guitar. And I primarily use, I would say, mainly one set of guitar string brand makers, but I do sometimes use two others. But the one that I mainly use is Ernie Ball's Extra Slinky Gauge 008. I've been a big fan of 08s for the longest because I like my guitar to feel slinky. I like where I can bend and slur the notes and it don't feel like I'm playing barbed wire, and it takes hard effort to kind of push them strings and get that kind of emotional band that I get when I'm playing some lead stuff. And everybody's different, because one thing I do notice, and it varies from guitar to guitar, no two guitars are the same. No two guitars sound the same. No two guitars feel the same. And what I recently found out within the last 10 years, each player of the same guitar, if you give 10 guys the same guitar to play, that guitar's going to sound different throughout all those 10 guys. And that's really interesting. So I use eights because, again, I like the slinkiness, and I play for long periods of time. I'm a studio musician. So it's important for me to have some strings that are very comfortable for me to play. Now, you do have a tendency to hear a difference in tonality when you're using different gauge strings. When you use thicker gauge strings, which is what a lot of jazz guys use, you get a more warmer, thicker sound. The lighter the gauge, the thinner the sound in most cases your guitar is going to sound. It's kind of a trade-off. It's like, okay, do I want warm sounding strings, but yet feel terrible to play, feel like I'm playing barbed wire because I'm playing gauge 12s or 13s or something like that. Well, 10s and 11s, because I think Stevie Ray Vaughan played, I think he might have played 10s. No, I think he played actually a thicker gauge, and that's kind of the trade-off. It's like, well, what do you need the most? And for me, it's durability and longevity, meaning that, again, I play for 8 to 9, 10 hours a day sometimes. So I need some strings that don't feel like barbed wire. Now, I do have guitars where I have maybe gauge 9, even maybe 10s on them. My jazz guitar thing got 10s on them. But when I use those guitars, I use them sparingly. I might go into the studio and do one guitar track and I'm done. Now, to take that gauge strings out on a set, a gig, and I'm playing, 20, 30 songs, I would not use 10s or 11s. I wouldn't, I would use 08s, because when I was a kid, I used to watch Midnight Special, and sometimes I see that the artists have a couple of guitars on the stage. And being a kid, you don't know any bass, or they just showing off because they got more guitars that they can play at one time because they can afford it. Because, when you grow up in a poor neighborhood, in the ghetto, when you're a kid, you're lucky if you got a guitar, let alone I got 2 of them or 3 of them, But you come to find out as you get older the reason why they do that is because certain guitars have certain tones for a certain song that you're going to play, So they have that luxury. Like myself, I've lost track of how many guitars I have, but they all have. Cat trying to get in. Hold on, get out of here. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry about that. Ain't got time for cotton. But again, each guitar has its own personality, and I use each guitar for each particular setup. Because when I'm doing kind of the Nile Rodgers thing, I want my Strat. When I want to cover very different tones. My Telly, I love my Telly. My Telly is probably the most versatile guitar out of my collection. And a close second is my jazz guitar, Jazz Box from Jay Terser. I can do just about any type of song with those two guitars. Their range is just unbelievable. The Strat to me is not as versatile, but it does what it does when you want to do what you want it to do with it. Again, when I'm doing a lot of chic, Nile Rodgers kind of stuff, it's there. That's to get to go-to guitar. And doing James Brown stuff, that's the go-to guitar. But again, my Telly my jazz box, you know. But anyway, my strings is 08s. Then also I'll use, upside down, this brand sometimes too. But again, you know, different guitars have different tones, different strings. Sometimes it depends on, you know, what the tone you're going to get, because what I like to do is I like to keep my strings fresh. I change my strings maybe because I got so many guitars. I don't play one guitar every day, 8, 9, 10 hours. You know, it varies. You know, each day I might play a different guitar. So I change my strings perhaps once a month on the guitars that I play frequently. The guitars that I don't play as often, maybe every 3 months. But it's important to keep, you know, change your strings. For the beginners who don't know, the more you play, the more dirt and sweat deposits on the strings and actually on the neck of the guitar. And that tends to flatten out the strings. They don't have that bright, crisp sound anymore. And then if they're really dirty, they literally, it changes the tone. It changes the tone. So you want to keep new strings on there because it sounds really good when you have new strings. The only problem with new strings, and I haven't really noticed this personally in years as I think about this, new strings tend to change the tonality of the guitar. But since I change them so regularly, I don't notice that anymore. And I think the reason why I used to notice that because, again, growing up in a poor neighborhood, you didn't have the luxury of changing your strings every month. You lucky if you change your strings twice a year because you couldn't afford it. You know, I remember when bass strings were like $40. You know, we used to go to Guitar Centers, like $40. Same thing with guitar strings. They were pretty expensive, but now if those prices have actually went down and the quality of the strings have gotten better. So again, I'm going to sign off now, but also use Fender lights. You know, every blue moon, I use Fender lights. I don't really buy them initially. I usually get them on the guitars, but sometimes every blue moon I might buy a pack if I catch a good sale. But for the most part, it's Ernie Ball Slinkies extra, you know, because again, it just feels better for me personally to play. You know, everybody else has their difference and their preferences, but what I use and what I use don't necessarily mean this is the best strings in the world to use. It's just a personal preference. You know, I like the way they feel when I play them, and I like the way they sound when I play my guitar. So until next time, take care. Thanks for watching.